Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. My name is Doug. Today is part 2 of the Biax power scraper rebuild. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the ways that the power scraper shoe rides on. The bushings had worn out and these ways were taking up the slack, and as the shoe was riding back and forth over them, it wore some pretty appreciable grooves in the top. So these things sit at a slight angle so that you can adjust them. There's tapered, I shouldn't say tapered, but elongated slots for the screw heads. You can kind of push them together, take up some of the wear. What that angle is that these things are sitting on, I have no idea. So today we're going to go over to the Bridgeport. We're going to use the DRO to take some numbers. We're going to do some simple math, and we're going to go ahead and replicate that angle with a sine plate and head over the surface grinder, touch them up, get them back in usable condition. So thanks for joining me. Let's get to it. Alright, we're here on the mill, and what I'm trying to do here is come up with an angle that these shoes rest on the scraper. I don't know what that angle is, so what I've done is I've chucked the piece up in the vise, put it on the mill. I'm trying to get the glare out here, and I've zeroed the indicator, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and zero out the x-axis on the mill. And we're going to run this indicator up the slope 30 thousandths, and that's right about there, and read what we've got off the travel on the x-axis, which is 171. So we'll go over to the whiteboard, do the trig on that, and figure out what angle that we need to set so that we can get these things surface ground. Alright guys, quickly, we're over here at the whiteboard. We're going to run through some math and how we try to figure this angle out. First I'm going to do, I like to do things, I like to draw stuff out. I like to see things physically described. So what we're going to do is make a right angle triangle. And we know that we moved over 171 thousandths in the x-axis, and that brought the indicator tip up vertically 30 thousandths of an inch. What we've got here is a trig problem. Obviously we're going to go into the machinery's handbook, take a look at what some of their solutions are. We've got side A and side B, and we need to find angle A. We're going to reference off of this bottom, and we're going to surface grind the top. That's the reason for needing that angle. If we take a look in the machinery's handbook, we've got the tangent of A equals A divided by B. So if we divide 0.030 by 171 thousandths, that gives us 175 4/10 of a thousandth. Now what you'd end up doing there is you take this number here, go back into the machiner's handbook, go down the tangent column, and what you're going to find at 175 and almost a half is you're going to see that come out to be 9 degrees and 57 minutes. That's pretty close to 10 degrees. And I'm going to think that they went ahead and ground that at 10 degrees. Now, how do we really know for sure? So we're going to go ahead and do a little sanity check there. I've got a 5-inch sine bar, and if you go back into the machiner's handbook all the way to the back, they've got numbers, values for gauge block stacks for a 5-inch sine bar that will give us 10 degrees. On a 5-inch sine bar, that stack is going to come out to be 868 thousandths of an inch. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and put that stack in, place our piece on there, and then run an indicator over the top just as a sanity check before we go ahead and start making crazy setups and start grinding things at the wrong angles. So let's head over to the surface plate and we'll go ahead and proof check our math. Alright guys, we're over here at the surface plate. You can see the 5-inch sign bar, and that's 5 inches in between the two rollers here, the hinge and the bottom roller, for those that you might be interested or have never seen a sign bar before. I've got my stack of 868 thousandths gauge blocks on the bottom there, and what I'm going to do is just place my shoe on the top there. And obviously with it being an angle, you kind of have to get it on there fairly square, or else you're not going to get an indication that's going to be true. And what I'm going to end up doing is just bringing this indicator right over the top. And without having to reset the camera up, I'm pretty close. I'm only getting just a couple of tenths movement in between the zero. So I'm fairly confident that we found what our angle's supposed to be. All you have to do now is translate that over towards the surface grinder, and we should have a pretty good chance of getting these things trued up. So on to the next step. Hey guys, we're over at the surface grinder. I've got my magnetic sign plate on the magnetic chuck here. I've got the 868 thousandths gauge block stack under the locating pin, and I've got a parallel on top backing up the two shoes that need to be ground. I did run a machinist square against the edge here and against this machined edge on the shoes. This other side here is just kind of a factory edge, so we should be ready to go. So let's go ahead and fire the grinder up, and we'll level these out. Alright, we're back here at the bench. I've taken the ways off the surface grinder, reassembled them back onto the shaper head. You can kind of see there's a little bit of slop in those holes on purpose, so that you can squeeze these together and take down some of the wear in between the shoe and the pads here. They look pretty good, and hopefully we won't need to put any shim stock underneath. We'll be able to bring these right up to the base of the shoe and get that taken care of. If we take a look and drop a straight edge across, I think we've met our 10 degrees, so I'm pretty confident that that shoe is going to lie flat on the ways here. And the next thing we'll have to do is machine some bushings in the front and back here and reassemble the scraping head. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in part 3.